Originally, I'm from the UK, a little town on the south coast called Brighton. And I first ended up in Panama in 2013 with my wife on our honeymoon. She has an auntie that lives over on the Caribbean coast in Bocas del Toro. And we went there, we spent about a month there, and that's where I had my first experience of fishing in Panama. And I was not disappointed. Panama had always been on my bucket list as somewhere to go for fishing. I've traveled all over the world for fishing over the years. And yeah, the fishing in Panama was pretty exciting. I think I'll never forget the first time I came down here with my wife on our honeymoon. As in, we were traveling across from the Caribbean. We came down across the mountains through David onto the Interamericana and down into Los Santos. But what was really noticeable was once we arrived in Los Santos and we got onto the smaller buses, was this sense of community and togetherness from the people. It just kind of changed as we came off the Interamericana and down into this part of Panama. Every time anyone got on a bus, the whole bus would call us buenas as each person got on. And that really struck a chord with us. We felt like we'd never been anywhere in the world that had that kind of just, it's hard to put into words. You know, it didn't really matter who was on the bus. Everyone just made a point of, as you would say, a saludos, a greeting. It's very important here in this part of the world. And we found the people to be really friendly and welcoming. And that really struck a chord with us. I remember at the time on our honeymoon being like, wow, you certainly don't get that on a bus back in London in the UK. People getting on and everyone going, hey, hello. It just doesn't happen. So for us, that was a really unique thing here. And, you know, the people are really wonderful in this part of Panama. We find them very warm, very welcoming and hospitable. And that was the original thing that really drew us to this area. We were just like, wow, it's unbelievable. Just walking around the streets of Pedasi as well, the first time we came, everybody said hello, everyone gave you a wave, and we really liked that. Fish Pedasi as a business has been a long time in the making. And personally, for me, I've always had a dream of running my own fishing and guiding company. And it's something I've been slowly working towards over the years. For the last 3 years until this year, previously, I was working and managing and acting as the head guide at a fishing lodge in Veraguas. And one day I'd always thought, you know, as much as it's great doing this, I'm working for other people, but I'd really like to do it for myself. And then COVID hit. And that changed everything because all of our clients at the fishing lodge were predominantly Europeans and some from the US and Canada as well. With the travel restrictions, it basically killed the business dead. And that was it. I was out of a job. The fishing lodge was shut down and I spent pretty much a whole year without any work at all thinking what we're going to do. And actually this forced my hand. I got in touch with a friend of mine here in Pedasi, which is where I'd been living in the off season from working at the fishing lodge anyway. I'd always lived in Pedasi. And a friend of mine here, and we got together and we decided to start Fish Pedasi. It was a fantastic opportunity. And during that time of COVID, it gave us the gift of time, which is not something you get much in life. And in that time, we created the business, we custom built our own boat, we got all our ducks in a row, thinking and hoping that once COVID starts to calm down and travel restrictions are eased and people start to travel again, we'd be sitting pretty and in the right place to make a go of this fishing business here in Pedasi. Now, I'm the only foreigner with a boat on the beach here, surrounded by all the commercial fishermen and the local tour guides that do the whale trips and what have you. And I'm the only guy down there, only foreigner who's on that beach working with them. And I wrote letters to the Fishing Association when I started, seeking their permission and all the rest of it, asking if they'd be happy for me to run a business here off the beach, be part of their team. And that was the way to do it. You know, it is all about community. I went to the elders in the community. It's so old school, the way that it all works here. You've got the couple of old boys at the top and that's everything. You have to talk to them. It's like getting permission from the elders, you know, and that's exactly how it is still here in Pedasi. It will change as the generations move through, but right now there's still these old guys in the community that are considered the people to talk to, the guys to respect and stuff. So that's kind of how it works. Our friends, the friends of my wife and I back in Brighton, I think they're all incredibly proud of what we've done and what we've achieved and the move that we've made. And they all give us such positive support And they all say, well, you're going to come out and see you when you're all sorted. You know, COVID's made things difficult, but during that time, you know, we bought a small piece of land. We're planning to build on it. We started the business. We really used the time COVID gave us to our advantage. And everybody wants to come and see. And my wife she makes little videos of all the different things that we're doing, and it goes on YouTube, and the family and our friends are all supporting it and watching us. And it's a wonderful thing. You know, they're all very, very happy for us. And it's a great thing, and I'm hoping they will all come and visit as well. Back in the UK, originally, when I was living and working there, I was working in the construction trade as a painter and decorator and a handyman. And every winter, the work used to dry up for a couple of months around December, January, February. So I'd take the opportunity to travel and indulge in my passion for fishing. And I went to many different countries over the years and had some truly fantastic fishing adventures. It took me to some really interesting places: Australia, India, Iceland. Really fantastic thing to do. You get to meet some interesting people and some good adventures with a backpack and a fishing rod. And then I was very fortunate to get picked by the BBC to take part in a reality TV fishing show. And that gave me a whole extra 6 countries that I could tick off my bucket list. I was very fortunate to be taking part and get involved. And we went to Iceland, Cuba, Laos, British Columbia in Canada, Zambia, Costa Rica. I think that was it. I think that's the 6 countries, unless I've missed one. But it was a fantastic experience. So I've been very blessed and fortunate to get around the world and experience some fantastic fishing over the years. There's some really, truly unique and unusual fish that we get here in this part of the world. And everybody knows you can come here and you can fish for tuna and dorado and rooster fish and cubera snappers. But I think for me, the most interesting ones are some of the weird and wacky reef fish that we find here. We get some crazy looking triggerfish and parrotfish. The other day we had a fish called a trumpet fish, and he was about 4 feet long, a big, big long fish, very, very slim, long, tiny, strange looking beak, just a completely unique and weird sea creature. And you just never know what's going to turn up. And for me, those are the really interesting ones, because we don't get to catch them every day, because we're generally not targeting them. You know, we're targeting the fish that the customer desires. When we do get these unusual oddities from the sea, it's for me, it's fascinating. I've always been totally fascinated by fish and the infinite variety that can be found throughout the world. So for me, that's the interesting stuff. The fishing here in Pedasi is pretty spectacular. I mean, that's why I started the business here, having cut my teeth fishing at many different places all around the world and being totally falling in love with the fishing here. I always thought, you know, Pedasi is special. And the reason it's special is it's a very diverse and interesting fishery with the biodiversity and the sheer number of species available here. It's really one of the most prolific fisheries in the Eastern Pacific. The best time to visit here would probably be between April and December. You're going to come to Pedasi. We get a windy season January to March, and that makes things kind of tricky. So it's hard to get on the ocean at that time of year. But then for 9 months of the year, you've essentially got pretty good conditions here where you've got lots of scope to get out fishing, which is what makes Pedasi pretty special. The Caribbean side of Panama is it's interesting. There's some good fish to be had, but it's not easy. I would say in the Caribbean side, there's not so many fish, whereas over this side on the Pacific, you have a huge quantity of fish, and the variety available and the number of different species that you can target is absolutely staggering and mind-blowing. And these fish grow to some insanely big sizes as well. So if you're a traveling angler, and you've got certain fish on your bucket list, Panama and its Pacific, the fishery here is somewhere where it can really tick some boxes for you. It's a truly special place. And yeah, he's a passionate angler who's fighting a really good cause there with his tarpon conservation thing. And that's really interesting to me. And a tarpon is actually probably one of my top fish as far as an angler, as a nerdy angling perspective. It's one of the most exciting fish that there is to me. The fact that we have them here in Pedasi, they have them over there in Bocas at Auntie Sue's place. You know, it's very interesting fishing, and it's not easy. And as a man that's traveled all around the world and caught thousands and thousands of fish in my time, the more fish you catch, you like it to be, each fish that you do catch, to be harder to catch. That's where the challenge comes in. And a tarpon is a very difficult fish to catch. So he's way up there on my list. I think if you're planning to move to Panama, you need to relax. You've got to go with the flow. If you're thinking of coming to Panama and everything's going to be just like it was back where you've come from, and you're going to be able to get jobs done in the way that you used to get them done back at home, it really doesn't happen like that in Panama. You need to chill out, go with the flow, and just relax and take it easy, because I see a lot of people here get wound up by the way that things work here, the systems in place, and you know, we can't change that. It is how it is. That's how Panama is. So you have to accept that, and you have to go with the flow. It's really important here. Otherwise, you just end up getting wound up and frustrated. And that's not what you come to Panama as an expat for, to get wound up and frustrated. So that's really important. I think the other thing that's really, really important is to integrate with the locals and learn to speak Spanish. If you do, and you give them some time and you try, even if you make a real fool of yourself, they give you so much back, and that's really, really important. I think if you plan to spend your whole life in a gated community with other expats, you're not going to get the same experience. And if you do integrate with the locals, you know, it can really enrich your life. And, you know, we're in their country, so make the most of it, enjoy it. And there's so much interesting things going on here. And by mixing with the locals, you learn a lot more about it a lot quicker. For me, as my experience of living in Pedasi is, here it's all about community. It's all about people working together for a bigger picture, a greater good. So I don't think I could actually recommend any one particular person as, let's say, resident of the year. And I don't think that would be fair. For me, I would vote for the community as a whole, because that's what's impressed me so much about Pedasi, is the way that people come together and they work together and they rally the troops, and it's a really lovely thing. And for that reason, I wouldn't really want to pick one person. And for me, that's an important choice, if that's the question, as to who would be resident of the year. I don't think you could pick one. There's so many people doing many good things and bringing people together here, that's why I love it. That's what's so great about Pedasi. I think it's very important to respect the local culture and the local customs. You know, generally speaking, the Panamanians, I find, are quite reserved. They come from a Catholic background, and as such, it pays to respect the local cultures and the local ways. And sometimes, you know, to dress accordingly, dress respectfully. You know, perhaps cruising around town just in a bikini or in a pair of swim shorts with the shirt off is not the best way to be received by the locals here. Just little things like that. And also, I think if you're going to come to Pedasi, you know, we're only a small town. We've not got a huge amount of infrastructure here. And it's little things like bring your own stainless steel water bottle with you. The tap water here is perfectly drinkable. There's absolutely no problem with drinking it at all. So rather than leave a mountain of plastic bottles behind you when you leave Pedasi, which needs to be disposed of, or it will go to landfill, it's a great idea just to have a reusable water bottle with you. And just thinking about sustainability and conservation, these are really important aspects to think about if you're going to be visiting this part of Panama. And I think it's a bit of a cliche, but take nothing but photos and leave nothing but footprints if you can. Just try and stick to that kind of adage and look after the environment here. It's a really important thing.